Well, the next story is a huge story and the potential to become a gigantic story if this develops any further. And what am I talking about? The South African MTN group. We're all familiar with MTN. South Africa's largest telecom operator is under investigation by the United States Department of Justice grand jury concerning its past operations in Afghanistan and its 49% stake in Iran's Iran cell. The probe follows existing US lawsuits alleging MTN facilitated support to anti-American militias through its affiliation with Iran cell, potentially in violation of the US Anti-Terrorism Act. So basically, America is saying, MTN, you supported our enemies, and now we are investigating you. Now, according to the news agency Reuters, MTN confirmed its cooperation with the Department of Justice and said it has responded to the amended complaint, while the CEO, Ralph Mupita, acknowledged awareness of the probe but declined to further comment. According to nationalsecuritynews.com, grand jury investigations are not routine regulatory inquiries or civil litigation. They are amongst the most powerful tools of the American justice system, conducted in secrecy and designed to determine whether criminal charges of the most serious nature should be filed. The Bureau of Justice Statistics has found that fewer than 2% of cases presented to the federal grand jury result in no indictment. In other words, the indictment rate is roughly 98%, and they are investigating MTN. This is not a good sign at all. Just to make this crystal clear, according to statistics, if you are under the US grand jury investigation, there is a 98% possibility that this thing is going to go further and that a lot of trouble is on its way. MTN faces other ongoing legal cases in the United States filed on behalf of American service members and civilians who were injured or killed in Iraq and Afghanistan between 2005 and 2010, who accuse MTN of violating the US Anti-Terrorism Act. The plaintiffs' complaints allege that MTN supported anti-American militias in Iraq and Afghanistan through its participation in Iran cell. If MTN is found guilty of supporting enemies of the United States of America, they can be fined, they can lose the US market, and they can be excluded from the global financial system. So the big question is, are there sanctions incoming for MTN? Yes or no? And what will the effect of that be on the South African economy? We know that the South African ANC government has aligned themselves with America's enemies, and it seems like it doesn't matter where you live or who you are. If you do that under the current Trump administration, they are going to come after you. And so it seems like the Trump administration is indeed coming for the ANC and South African companies who have aligned themselves with America's enemies. Let's keep our eyes on this story. This is a huge, massive story. Let's see how this develops.
MTN under investigation. What it means for South Africa-US relations. The U.S. Department of Justice's DOJ investigation into MTN's alleged bribery and corruption in securing contracts in Iran and Afghanistan has raised concerns about the potential escalation of tensions between South Africa, SA, and the United States, US. International politics experts warn that the probe could significantly impact relations between the two countries, already strained due to existing trade tensions. This follows reports that MTN chairman Mcebisai Jonas, also President Cyril Ramaphosa's envoy to US, has spoken out against a relentless campaign he believes is aimed at isolating SA, labeling it a concerted effort by influential individuals to render the country a pariah state. MTN Group is facing a US DOJ grand jury investigation related to its operations in Afghanistan and Iran, including allegations of bribery to secure a mobile phone license in 2005, during Ramaphosa's tenure as MTN chairman. President spokesperson Vincent Magwenya did not respond to a request for comment on the allegations that MTN bribed Iranian officials to secure a mobile phone license during Ramaphosa's tenure as chairman of the company. The DOJ grand jury probe relates to MTN's past operations in its former subsidiary in Afghanistan and its 49% stake in Iranian telecom company Irancell. MTN Group has confirmed that it has been approached by its external U.S. counsel regarding a DOJ grand jury investigation. MTN Chief Corporate Affairs Officer Nampolo Marafo said the telecommunication company is cooperating with the DOJ and voluntarily responding to requests for information. She said MTN exited its Afghanistan business in early 2024. MTN has not been charged with any violations of the law. As we are dealing with an ongoing investigation, MTN is limited in what it can say at this time. We will provide further information when we are able to do so, she said. This development comes amid a backdrop of tense ties between Pretoria and Washington, D.C., which saw President Donald Trump imposing punitive measures on South African exports. Professor Kathatso Shai, an expert in African politics and international relations at the University of Limpopo, notes that relations between the U.S. and SA have hit a low point, not seen since pre-1994. According to him, the ongoing investigation is likely to further strain ties between the two nations, even without conclusive evidence. The U.S. tends to prioritize beliefs over evidence in its foreign policy decisions, particularly when it serves the interests of white supremacy and privilege in both countries, he said. He emphasized that the credibility of the investigation and the U.S. Department of Justice's independence from politics will be crucial in determining the outcome. Shai believes the investigation could lead to increased scrutiny of South African companies operating in sensitive markets, but questions the genuineness of such probes. There appears to be a well-coordinated agenda to undermine the government of SA and project our state as a pariah, he said. The investigation's impact on South Africa's relationships with other countries, particularly in the Middle East and Africa, remains uncertain. Shai noted that businesses like MTN prioritize profit maximization over politics, and the investigation's outcome will depend on the evidence presented. Dr. Frank Lekaba, a senior lecturer at the Wits School of Governance and International Relations expert, notes that the U.S.'s investigation into MTN's dealings could either be exploited by the current U.S. opposition to further strain relations with SA, or it might not necessarily worsen diplomatic ties between the two nations. Lekaba cites the unpredictable nature of U.S. foreign policy and ongoing talks between Presidents Ramaphosa and Trump about the Ukraine-Russia war as factors. He believes the impact of the investigation into MTN's dealings on SA-US relations is uncertain. However, he said, it could also exacerbate tensions, particularly among U.S. factions critical of South Africa. It is a multiplicity of issues at play that we cannot say with certainty that this will impact or may not impact the diplomatic relation between the two countries, he said. He noted that in terms of geopolitics, SA is doing well, saying that the European Union has long pledged its support towards the country to increase their local investment. We are fine with almost a quarter of the world except for the US and Israel. They seem like the main antagonists of South Africa's foreign policies, he said. Like and subscribe now.